us with truth whenever we speak. Lord, may we ever know your will. Come to us when our hearts are still. As we your guidance with joy receive, may we as one your bliss achieve. As we your guidance with joy receive, may we as one your bliss achieve.
This reading is from Rays of the One Light, Weekly Commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Week 19, The Secret of Right Action. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. One of the most famous stories in the Gospels is that of Martha and Mary. Jesus, visiting the home of Martha, was teaching while her sister Mary sat at his feet, absorbing his divine love and wisdom. Martha, meanwhile, busied herself with serving her guests and was upset with Mary for not helping her. "Lord," she cried, "doesn't it matter to you that my sister has left me to do all this serving alone? Please ask her to help me." "Martha, Martha," Jesus answered, "thou art careful and troubled about many things. But one thing is needful, and Mary hath chosen that good part which shall not be taken away from her." This story is classic, for Martha's complaint is very understandable and not, on the surface of it, spiritually wrong. Jesus may well have told Mary to get up and help her. We don't really know that he didn't, considerate as he always was of others' needs. But the teaching here doesn't concern the obvious dilemma of devotees, to work for God or to spend all one's time in prayer. It concerns, rather, the attitude of the mind. Jesus didn't tell Martha, "Martha, you're doing too much." He told her, rather, "You are letting your work affect your inner peace." That was the contrast, not work versus contemplation, but restless preoccupation versus peaceful absorption under all circumstances. As it says in the Bhagavad Gita, the 2nd chapter, "Actions performed under the influence of desire are greatly inferior to those which are guided by wisdom. Happiness eludes people when they act from self-interest. Seek shelter, therefore, in the equanimity of wisdom." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Martha, Martha, you have come to us again, still complaining, same as you did last year and all those years before. When are you going to learn about selfless, joyful service and higher dharma? I would never behave like that. I can see myself in this situation. That's okay, Mary. You just stay there and rub his feet. Don't mind me. I'll do all the cooking. I'll serve the food. I'll even do the dishes afterwards. Don't trouble yourself to help. You just have a good time. I can't wait to hear all about it after I've done all the work and that we were supposed to do together. That's what you would do too, right? Of course. Of course. I can't figure out why Swami always puts this in the book. Good morning. My name is Surendra. I'm here this morning with Lorna and with Nayaswami's Mari and Hanuman, and we're delighted to have you with us too. I must confess that after 23 years of hearing Martha's lament, there's a devilish side of me that wants to revise that gospel passage a little bit by adding a line to the end of it. He would still say, "Martha, Martha, you are careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is important, and Mary hath chosen that good part, and it shall not be taken away from her. So put a sock in it and get back into the kitchen." Most of our behavior, for better or worse, is ingrained at an early age. Martha was obviously not the product of a Living Wisdom School education, and neither was I. When I turned 7 years old, being raised in the Catholic Church, I took my first Holy Communion. And according to the Church, that is when a child or a person knows right from wrong. Well, what a person is presumed to know and what he or she actually does are not necessarily the same things. And as we grow and acquire the ability to reason, we also acquire an ego. Now, the ego is not the evil twin, but it has many good, important qualities to have. But in the throes of a strong desire, it has an uncanny talent for twisting wrong into right. And thus it tends to be a part of our lives for literally the rest of our lives. Well, when you're a Catholic, wrong is not just wrong, it's a sin. And if you accumulate enough of these, your soul is headed for eternal penance in that hot place down below. Scary stuff, let me tell you. But not scary enough to keep you from doing wrong. Because wrong can be very seductive, and right is often not nearly as appealing. Well, I managed to survive my not-so-wayward youth, and I like to think that even before I came to Ananda, I was a decent fellow. I cared about doing unto others as they had done unto me or would do unto me, and I often went out of my way to uphold that principle. But like Martha, I wanted recognition for the helpful things that I did. And I did not want to be stuck in a menial task all by myself when everyone else was having a good old time and I wasn't. Wrong, in the case of Martha, is not immediately obvious because wrong is hardly restricted to openly bad behavior. More often, it's very subtle. Just a tweak in attitude that triggers a judgment, a mood, or merely a negative thought. Martha was serving her guests with the aim of adding to their comfort and enjoyment, but her ego took offense at being alone in this endeavor, and she reacted to what it was telling her. It was telling her that Mary's attention to Jesus anointing his feet with oil was self-indulgent and unfair, since she was expected to help with the food. Martha was caught in that commonly rigid mindset that still catches us too. We don't like it when we think that we're getting the short end of a deal, no matter what that deal may be. The ego says, "What's in it for me?" And when the answer is not enough, we resent it. Martha, in her short-sightedness, missed the deeper lessons that were offered in this situation. One, the joy of self-forgetfulness. And two, recognition of the higher Dharma that Mary exemplified in her absorption in the presence of her guru. Okay, now we have to cut Martha some slack here. She was doing her best to create a welcome experience for everyone. And I'm sure she was a loving and generous person and no doubt a very high soul. But she lost her inner peace, which is to say, it's so easy to do when you have a particular idea of how things are supposed to be, and suddenly that's not how they are. She became restless, and her ego got the better of her. We know exactly what that's like, don't we? And that's why this story remains in the book at this particular week 19. The idea of genuine self-offering, of labor without attachment to the fruit of our labors, of divine attunement to God and gurus. We have not quite mastered that yet. Maybe we're tired of hearing this story, but are we beyond the need to hear it? I'm not. Swami's entitled this reading, The Secret of Right Action. The only reason it's a secret is because we tend to miss its deeper meaning. Right action is less about outward behavior than it is about inner commitment. A person may believe in the goodness of doing good work, and a certain measure of good karma is going to flow to the person doing it. But what is the person's state of consciousness in doing that good work, in performing it? Martha's consciousness, despite the good that she was doing, was not in attunement with her higher self. What Jesus was trying to show her and to show us is that even goodness, when it emanates from an egoic state of mind, it's a form of bondage. As the old adage goes, chains of gold are nonetheless chains that bind. They bind us to delusion, to a sense of separation. The ego thrives on separation. It separates us from our connection to God and from the unity that is the goal of self-realization. This is a hard lesson, because just being good isn't good enough. If there's an underlying sense or motivation of, hey, what about me? Martha was ostensibly serving God, but she was not centered in God. What Jesus wanted her to see was not that he didn't want her to stop serving. He wanted her not to lose touch with God while going about her business. I do that all the time. It's just staying in God consciousness, no matter what the circumstances may be. We've heard many times that God watches the heart. Well then, why don't we watch it also? Especially in the course of a busy day, in the midst of snarled traffic on a rainy night, for example, and the aches and pains of a chronic illness or injury, in the stressful moments of a fast approaching deadline or a financial loss. Where's the heart? What's the feeling? Are we feeling the love of God? And if not, we've fallen short of making the most of whatever that situation is. We've also heard many times that happiness is a choice. And God knows we choose enough ways in the course of a day to chase after it. Our worldly desires, like the demonic nine-headed hydra in Greek mythology, grows another head as soon as one is severed. It took Hercules to solve this challenge. As he cut off each of the heads, he immediately cauterized the source of it with fire to keep it from growing another. That's a rather graphic image. But the fact is, our egoic tendencies will produce a new desire, a new habit, a new karmic attachment for everyone we overcome unless we do the same, unless we cauterize it with that inner fire to prevent the possibility of its recurrence. That requires surrendering this little self into that fire of purification. Does that mean that it has to hurt? Is there the experience of a burning sensation before we can get free of these things that tie us to delusion? On the contrary, what could feel better than getting rid of an extra weight that is simply weighing you down? Martha was under the burden of her own despairing attitude without any sense of that being the source of why she was unhappy with the choice that Mary had made. I remember spring break in my freshman year of college. Several friends and I had planned a trip to Mexico, admittedly not one of high moral purpose or refinement, but we were keen about the adventures ahead. The day before we were set to leave, I came down with the measles. I spent the entire week at home under house arrest. They had a blast. I had a grievance with God. My attitude was far worse than my illness, and I learned nothing useful from the experience until, thankfully, decades later when I came to this wonderful place. These things happen, and at least we've come to understand they are not the result of coincidence, of some random roll of the dice or unlucky luck of the draw. There's a simple affirmation that I have taken to heart, and I repeat it especially when I'm suddenly confronted with a difficult situation. Whatever comes my way is a gift from God intended for my spiritual growth. Whatever comes my way is a gift from God intended for my spiritual growth. Although we don't know the end of Martha's story, I suspect that thanks to Jesus, she soon came to that same understanding. Right action starts with right attitude. And right attitude starts in the heart. Some would say it's a path of remembering to live for God. But more important, it's a path of remembering to live with God, in the thought of Him, in awareness of His presence, in awareness of the constant love awaiting to be realized within us. Selfless service? Yes, of course. As Lorna read in the affirmation in the prayer, all that I do, Lord, I do for love of Thee. Accept the flowers of my service as I lay them on Thy altar of omnipresence. If we can make that prayer that emanates from the heart of us, make it permeate our awareness and inspire even just most of what we do, well, self-realization can't be far ahead from that. I'd like to close with one of the most beautiful poems in Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda. I think very appropriate for this occasion. I was made for thee. I was made for thee alone. I was made for dropping flowers of devotion gently at thy feet on the altar of the morning. My hands were made to serve thee willingly, to remain folded in adoration, waiting for thy coming. And when thou comest, to bathe thy feet with my tears. My voice was made to sing thy glory. My feet were made to seek thy temples everywhere. My eyes were made a chalice to hold thy burning love and the wisdom falling from thy nature's hands. My ears were made to catch the music of thy footsteps echoing through the halls of space, and to hear thy divine melodies flowing through all heart tracts of devotion. My lips were made to breathe forth thy praises and thine intoxicating inspirations. My love was made to throw incandescent searchlight flames to find thee hidden in the forest of my desires. My heart was made to respond to thy call alone. My soul was made to be the channel through which thy love might flow uninterruptedly into all thirsty souls. Om Shanti. Amen. God bless you.
Our next song this morning is entitled Mother of Us All. All your children, Mother, call you, knowing not it's you they call. Some through mists of their unknowing, bruised and hurting when they fall, turn away, but who can leave you? You, the mother of us all. If the child forgets its mother, will she coldly turn away? Wise or foolish were your children. Guide us, Mother, if we stray. Those whose hearts are torn with anguish lack the power your name to call. Heal their wounds, Ma, soothe their sorrows. You, the mother of us all. Heal their wounds, Ma,
Mother's Day, everyone. Several things happening. First is there is a Mother's Day brunch happening. There will not be a bagel bar and treats after service as we usually have, because we have some gentlemen over there right now preparing brunch. And everyone is invited if you'd like to go. Ladies eat for free, and there's a charge for any gentlemen who want to eat. But you're always welcome to serve, selflessly, of course. And then we want to let you know what's happening next weekend. We have a very special guest. These flyers are available up at our front desk. Please take one so that you know what's happening and share it with somebody if you'd like. Shanti Rubenstone, who is the co-director down there at Ananda Palo Alto, will be coming up to spend the weekend with us. And this is just a momentous occasion because we haven't had visitors here to come and give programs for quite a while. And she's the first of what we're calling our SAGE series of these wise devotees, disciples who've been living these teachings and are very, very good at sharing these teachings. So she will be here on Friday. There will be a talk on Friday night, a free presentation called What Does It Mean to Be Truly Well? And then on Saturday, she has an all-day retreat from 8 to 4, Healing with the Power of God. Sunday, she will be here to help present our Sunday service. And it would be wonderful to just show up and be here with her and share the time with her. We have an amazing ministry team here that helps do service and teach, but it's really lovely to have others who also live these teachings. And there are a lot of them out there in the Ananda worldwide, and we're working on inviting quite a few of them. So Shanti is just the first, and we will have others signed up, and we'll let you know. Please come if you can to any or all of those offerings, and just soak up the experience and the perspective and the wisdom that flows through someone else who's been living these teachings for decades. Her emphasis is on healing because she's a physician, but these teachings are applied on every level of life, as we know, and we can always learn something else. If you talk to people this week, I would encourage you to at least mention to one person, are you going to see Shanti Rubenstone? Help them know. We, of course, put out emails, and we have a website, and we try to get to everybody, but not everybody is in tune with that. And oftentimes, after we have an event, I have somebody say, oh, I didn't realize. Oh, darn. So let's just help spread the word and welcome Shanti. If you have questions, yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Pavani is reminding me that our Mother's Day brunch after service here is at 1. So you have time to gather your forces and get over there to the community at the Living Joy Center at our community center. If you have questions about where that is, let us know. And Vikram is pointing, and I'm getting prompts from the audience. That's fine. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so we're switching back and forth here from brunch to Shanti. It's okay. Back to Shanti. There's a schedule. Pick up one of these. There's a schedule at the front desk. So it says what it is that's happening that weekend so that you know. It's lots of info. Okay, thank you. And, the one other thing is next Sunday is also Swami Kriyananda's birthday, which is great fun. So Shanti will be here for that, and we'll have her for service. And if you come, you might get a piece of birthday cake after service. Thank you for being here, and always, if you have questions, please ask them, and then we will answer them for you.